We want to call the East Greenbush Central School District Board of Education. First order of business is our public hearing around the budget. Attendance this evening, I anticipate Ms. Komersky and Ms. O'Brien to be here a little bit late. We'll see. With that, could you please rise, if you're able, to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Next, for the call of the meeting, we do have a resolution to waive the reading of the public hearing notice, which is several pages. It's something we do. Typically, if you want to read it, it is present in the board docs document. Need a motion to waive that? Mark, second. John, all those in favor? All right, the reading is waived, and we will turn it over to Mr. Simons, who will present the 24-25 school budget. Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Pino. I want to welcome members of the community who are here for our annual budget hearing. It's really nice to see all of the students and some of the residents here to learn about the proposed spending plan for next year. The budget for the school district, we've been working on it for a few months now, really starting in December with discussions about some of the challenges that we might face regarding the school budget as conversations were occurring across the state. And when the governor released her executive budget in January, the district was looking at the potential for a significant reduction in foundation aid. The final budget at the state level was adjusted. We did receive a little bit more than what the governor's proposal had presented, but still less than what we were entitled to through the formula. So we've worked on both the revenue side of the budget and the expenditure side of the budget. And as we put our spending plan together, we always try to be mindful of our Board of Education's vision for our students and for our community. The board has developed its goals to focus on three areas. First is future-driven education. We want to make sure that our finances support the type of instruction that our students need, the kind of curriculum offerings that they need to be prepared for their future, the skills that they're going to need when they graduate from high school, whether they choose to go into a college program, whether they choose to enter into a vocational or trade educational experience, or whether they go right into the economy and employment or serve in the military. Skills such as critical thinking, being able to work in teams and collaborate with one another, being thoughtful and collaborative, understanding the importance of being adaptable. Many years ago, someone could enter into the workforce and work in the same job and for the same company for their entire lifetime until they retire. Well, the economy has changed over the last several decades, and our students really need to have those critical thinking skills, communication skills, and be adaptable. So the programs that we're funding, both within the classroom and the extracurricular programs, provide for that future-driven education, as does our capital project, which we'll talk about in a little bit, as we modernize our facilities to make sure that we can support the children in their success and learning the skills that they need to be very successful upon graduation from Columbia High School. Second area of focus, again reflected in the spending plan that we're proposing to the voters, is whole learner focus. We want to make sure that not only we have the programs to support the academic instruction that the students need, but also the services that they need to be successful, to help them with their social emotional development. We know that, for example, mental health is a big concern across our country for our kids, and we are happy to say that this budget is maintaining all of the social workers, counselors, and some of the outside services that we've been able to put in place within the district over the last few years. Third, and very importantly, we want to make sure that each of our schools offers the students, the visitors, the families, the community, a safe and inclusive environment. That includes providing not only for the physical safety of everyone, including the infrastructure, security systems, access control systems, but also making sure that we have the programs that can provide connections for the kids so that they feel like they belong within the school. Programs such as extracurricular activities, arts, clubs, athletics, making sure that there is a variety of offerings for all kinds of kids to make sure that they know that school is a place for them. We keep in mind the high expectations when we put together our budget that our students hold themselves to, that our teachers and our support staff hold themselves to, as well as the community. And we certainly have a lot to be proud of in terms of our students meeting very high expectations. Here's just a couple of examples. We are happy to celebrate, and we celebrated a couple board meetings ago. A group of our high school students at Columbia got together and they raised more than $90,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. That's the Columbia Kicks Cancer Team. $90,000 doing outside projects, raising money, not a school requirement, a voluntary activity, but quite an accomplishment, and our students really setting the bar in terms of community service. We have an exceptional art program from the time the kids enter into our elementary schools through middle school and high school. And that excellence is reflected by the fact that a number of our students this year and in years past have had their artwork displayed in regional shows that are very, very competitive. And we want to make sure that within our budget, our programs include the arts, the music, the technology, the clubs such as the Science Olympiad Club, because those are the things that contribute to that whole child education, that well-rounded student that we want to have graduate from our district. And our students have been recognized in the community for their service. The East Greenbush Town Board has annually recognized a number of our students for what they're doing in the community to make the community better with their Spotlight on Youth award ceremony. Continuing, I mentioned the Science Olympiad program. We have an exceptionally competitive Science Olympiad program at both Goff Middle School and Columbia High School, where teams of students work on projects and challenges and actually compete with teams from other schools in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We've gone to the regional championships, we've gone to the New York State Championship, and we actually, a few years ago, our middle school team went to the national championship. Our music program, our students not only perform in our schools for the community, but they perform in the community to raise awareness of the importance of music education. And we have a photo here of our strings ensemble performing at the New York State Education Department. Just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm very proud of the people that are involved in this program, our school was recognized, Columbia High School, by the National Special Olympics for the success of our unified basketball program and bowling teams for creating an inclusive environment within our schools. The unified program is a program that was established. Mrs. Scalacci at the time was the director of Pupil Personnel Services, and Mike Leonard was the athletic director. They got together and they established one of the first unified sports programs in the region. That program brings children with disabilities and children who do not have disabilities together to play sports. And what comes out of that program is a camaraderie, a friendship, and learning the importance of kids being accepting and supportive of each other. And we're recognized nationally for that. And again, that goes along with the board's goals to be safe and inclusive and make sure that our children have connections. In the area of athletics, this year, so far, our teams have won 6 sectional championships, including in girls soccer, girls volleyball, boys bowling, girls bowling, indoor track for both boys and girls. A few weeks ago, we celebrated our New York State Championship girls bowling team, won the state championship, the best bowling program in the state. And we started some new athletic offerings this year to expand opportunities for kids, including boys and girls swim and girls wrestling. And now we have a girls flag football team that is very competitive. I believe they're 6-1, and they're doing very, very well. We had, within our wrestling program, 4 wrestlers from Columbia's girls wrestling team qualify for the New York State Championship, and we had 1 state champion. In addition to our students holding themselves to high expectations, our staff, our faculty, holds themselves to high standards. Chandra Conyers is a teacher at Donald P. Sutherland Elementary School. She went through a program and has been named a New York State Master Teacher. This is a program that recognizes dedicated teachers and talented teachers from across the state who do a lot of extra work outside the classroom to achieve that designation. So we're very proud of Chandra Connors. Julie Hamill, who's a kindergarten teacher at Janae, who's retiring this year, was named a Channel News 13 top teacher. Jack Alvey, the principal at Donald P. Sutherland, was named CASDA Principal of the Year. CASDA is a statewide organization that provides professional development and consultation to schools, and Jack was named the Principal of the Year by the Capital Area School Development Association. And Chris Ciccone, who was an earth science teacher at Columbia High School, as well as our girls softball coach and our golf coach, was named the East Greenbush Teachers Association Teacher of the Year. So in addition to boasting of the accomplishments of our students, we're extremely proud of the dedication and the talent of our staff. And our budget reflects the level of support we need to continue to give our students to achieve at the levels that they're achieving, and our staff to continue to be as responsive as they can to our students' needs. In the community, we recognize that the community does a lot to support our school district, and we want to give back to the community. One of my favorite things that we do within our school district is our schools have a Veterans Day celebration. In addition, our students during the holiday seasons are out in the neighborhoods raising money for families that may be in need, and they do holiday caroling. A few years ago, after we were experiencing the period of time during the pandemic, we brought back the Winterfest that we hold here at Goff Middle School to invite our families and our students in to enjoy really what is an indoor affair. And it's something that we do for the community because we appreciate that the community does so much for us. Additionally, we offer our music concerts. They're open to the community. And we have had some outstanding musicals within the district. I often say the best shows north of Broadway, and in some years they're even better. The Columbia Players this year produced Beauty and the Beast, which was a phenomenal show, and the Goff Middle School performance of Peter Pan Jr. was one of the most exceptional performances for middle school kids I have ever seen. Additionally, during the winter, we started our Adopt a Family program. Last year, our employees and our community provided holiday gifts for more than 64 families. One of the things we want to continue to do is make our facilities open to the community for use. And you'll hear about that a little bit when I talk about the capital project proposal. We opened up the track at Columbia High School on a limited basis for community walking. We're hoping to expand that should the project pass. And we're able to put a new track and field behind this building at Goff. Additionally, our board recognized some of our taxpayers who may need an adjustment to their taxes through exemptions that were available. Our Board of Education approved an adjustment to the assessments for our volunteer firemen and also our emergency workers within the community, as well as a separate exemption for seniors who meet certain income levels, as well as seniors with disabilities. Very proud of the community support that we continue to enjoy within our district. We never want to take that for granted. We want to continue to serve and try to do the best we can, but we're proud of the fact that our community has voted us the top school district for the last 3 years in the Times Union Best of the Best, and that is a great measure of the level of support we have, but also the accomplishments of our students and our teachers. So the budget vote is on May 21st, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. And it's really important that we encourage everyone to come out and vote. The first proposition that the community will see on the ballot is our proposed budget. Our budget proposes to spend about $111.7 million next year. That is the budget that funds the operation of all of our school buildings, our programs for the students, our teachers, our support staff, the athletic program, the monies within the operating budget to run the transportation department, to bus the kids to school, the extracurricular clubs, everything that we do on a day-to-day basis to provide for the students. Proposition 2 will be the capital project referendum, which proposes to borrow up to $116 million to improve our facilities and grounds. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Proposition 3 is the purchase of 8 school buses through a bus purchase reserve, utilizing that reserve that was established and approved by the community and reapproved by the community. Paying for those buses out of the reserve saves the district from borrowing and paying principal and interest payments because that money has been set aside by our board and authorized by the community. And we are also fortunate to have 5 candidates for the Board of Education for 3 seats this year. So the community will see 3 propositions and then the election of 3 candidates for the Board of Education. I'm very proud, after a lot of work in terms of looking at our revenues and our expenditures for next year on the part of our Board of Education, our administrative team, Jennifer Mulligan, I want to point out, our Director of Business and Finance, as well as Mr. Stiles, our Assistant Superintendent, and Marissa Cannon, and all of our administrators, some that are here and are not, were very important in contributing to the overall effort. But this budget is preserving all of our current academic programs. There are no program cuts included within the budget. We are going to be offering all of the same programs from pre-K all the way up to our middle school and high school elective courses that we offer. All of our extracurricular programs are being maintained within the budget. That includes arts, clubs, music programs, as well as the athletic program. We are providing the same level of mental health services that we established coming out of COVID in the school district for next year. And we are proposing this budget to the taxpayers within the New York State property tax cap for our district, which is 0.55%. So just over 0.5%, the tax levy is increasing next year. So we're accomplishing a lot with working within the New York State tax cap. This graph represents determinations that our board has made over the course of the last several years. The green bar represents the New York State tax cap, what New York State says we can raise the tax levy without a supermajority vote. You can see that every year the board has kept the proposed tax levy under the New York State tax cap, and this year it is within the cap, at the cap, at 0.55%. The tax cap is often referred to as a 2% cap. It's really not a 2% cap. It is a rather complicated formula that starts at 2% or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. And in our case, where the inflation is right now, it starts at 2%. But there are also factors that play into it, including what's happening with your tax base. Is it growing? There are certain categories of finance that are excluded from the tax cap, such as your capital principal and interest on your prior capital projects. But our tax cap for this year was 0.55, far less than the 2%. When we talk about our budget revenues, and we have shared this graph in the past, about 53% of our budget is funded through the local property tax base, and about 33% is funded through state aid. We also have pilot agreements, which are payment in lieu of taxes agreements, which are approved by Rensselaer County Industrial Development Agency. The board does not approve those. Those pilot agreements reduce commercial properties' overall tax liability, abates taxes to promote job retention and job growth. within the region. Our district receives approximately $6 million in pilot revenue, with the largest pilots coming from Regeneron. Additionally, as we look at our budget, to avoid having to cut programs and to keep our tax levy proposal within the tax cap, our board strategically appropriates reserves to balance the budget. So approximately 6% of our fund balance is our fund balance, and then less than 1% from reserves and 2% from other reserves. So this is where our revenue comes from when we look at next year. Additionally, on the expenditure side of the budget, if you add the blue with the purple, you will see that we have about 77% of the money of the budget that goes into the teachers and the instructional, non-instructional staff and the supports that we provide the students. Most school districts in New York State spend between 75% and 80% of their budget on the staff, which makes up most of the budget because they provide the services to the children. Okay. I'm happy to report that there are documents available for you if you would like to look at the detail of the budget this evening. They're green and they're on the back. Our administrative budget is about 11.6% of the overall budget. Okay. The major portion of the budget is the instructional or the program portion of the budget, and then we have the capital. But 11.6% of the budget goes into administration. Most of the budget goes into the instructional program to provide the direct services to the children. Transitioning to the capital project, our capital project is asking the community to support the district borrowing over time $116 million to do repairs and improvements to our school buildings and our grounds. There is a lot of information regarding the capital project on our district's website. We have been attending community meetings for the last couple of months to talk about the capital project. It's important for the community to understand that the capital project that is on the board, on the ballot for May 21st is completely separate from the general fund budget. The financing of that project occurs through bonding or borrowing. We borrow that money as we are completing the project in phases. And when we finalize the project phase, we start to receive building aid reimbursement from New York State. 72% of the eligible portions of this project are going to be paid back to the district through what's called New York State building aid. About 84% of the list of work that we're proposing to do is eligible for that 72% reimbursement. Additionally, 3 years ago, we went out to the community and we said we'd like to set aside some money in a capital reserve because we are planning a capital project, and we hope to be able to save that money to further reduce the local portion of the project that would impact your taxes. And overwhelmingly, by a supermajority, the community approved that capital reserve. So we have $2 million in that reserve that we're going to put towards the project. And we are paying off debt in 2025 for previous capital projects. And it's an important understanding that this particular capital project comes at a very important time, because this new project will amount to the actual same amount of principal and interest that the taxpayers are paying now in the annual operating budget, which is about $2.3 million. So we're proud to say that with a long-range plan, we can get a lot of work done to improve our school buildings, to offer additional fields, make our campuses safer, modernize our educational spaces with no increase to the local taxes. The capital project will not cost any additional money in the annual principal and interest payments for the project. It's going to equate. It's going to be the same. It's similar to when you are forced by circumstances perhaps to look for a new car, and you want to keep that car payment exactly the same as you're making now. Your payment in the annual operating budget, starting in 25, 26, and in future years, will be just about the same as it is now, which is a 0% increase, and we get a lot of work done. So the timing is very important. What do we plan to do? Heating and ventilation systems within all of the buildings need to be addressed, including within the elementary schools. We hear a lot of concerns in May and June, and sometimes in September and October, regarding the high temperatures in our classrooms and the high humidity. So the HVAC improvements, as far as the elementary schools are concerned, will also include air conditioning and temperature control within the system. The middle school currently has air conditioning in most spaces, not all. The high school currently has air conditioning in most spaces. There will be some improvements in the functioning at the middle school and the high school, but the big portion of this is the elementary school air conditioning in each of the 5 elementary schools. Athletic fields and courts. We'll start with Goff Middle School. You see the activity that's going on right over there and the number of cars. You've got baseball fields, you've got softball fields. Back here, we've got fields. Several months of the year, they're underwater, right? And they're not always safe and playable for physical education, for our teams. We have other community groups that use the fields back there. So our proposal is to utilize the state funding that is available as part of this project to put an artificial turf field there for practices, for games, for community use, to put a 6-lane running track back there for physical education, for our interscholastic programs, for community use. So that'll be an open field and complex available for the community. The grass fields that are out there that are underwater are going to be elevated with appropriate drainage put in. The baseball field that is going to be small baseball field that is kind of covered up where we're going to put the turf and track. We're going to put another baseball field in the corner so that will also be another option for the community and our school programs to use. In the area of athletic fields and courts, the tennis courts at Columbia High School are in disrepair. They need to be replaced. The grass fields there need improved drainage. The baseball field, 3 years ago, I believe now, was underwater for the first 8 games of the spring season. We're going to replace and improve the baseball field. Additionally, we're going to have some expanded parking at the high school, and we're going to be improving the entrance road, which backs up the traffic onto Luther Road, converting that entrance road from a 2-lane in, from a 1-lane in and 1 lane out to 2 lanes in and 2 lanes out. We're going to be putting a sidewalk for safety for the kids along the west side of the road. You see the kids many days walking to the YMCA or walking to the East Greenbush Community Library. Classroom work in the elementary schools is also going to be done. We're going to modernize the libraries in every single school, including the elementary. Library media program today is different than it was when those buildings were originally built. Some built in 1939, some built in 1940, others built in the 1960s, and the newest building being built in 1972. So we're going to modernize the libraries, make them spaces to have kids engaged in the types of projects that promote the critical thinking, the communication skills, the adaptability skills that I talked about in the context of the board's goals. We also are increasing our enrollment. Our projections for enrollment are that we're going to have about 100 more children in the next 5 years. We've also added pre-K, universal pre-K, and we're expanding that this year to 165 students. We have 4 classes in the buildings themselves. We may need to continue to grow that program, and we want to have the extra classroom space. Where those classrooms will go is to be determined based on state aid factors and approval of the state. Interior space upgrades such as tiles, ceiling tiles, traditional electrical plumbing, removal of hazardous materials. We're going to redesign the entrance. I mentioned that. New roof at Columbia. The roof is past its lifespan at Columbia High School and is leaking. It's between 20 and 25 years old. And we're making general improvements to the sidewalks, the parking lots, the drainage in general, among other things. There's a complete list on the district's website. The only other thing I would like to address regarding the capital project Again, it's separate from the general operating budget. In responding and asking the community for its input, there's kind of a misperception that I'd like to clear up a little bit. I've been asked the question directly myself, and I've seen it on social media, including as recently as today. There's a question that if the capital project wasn't $116 million and we either reduced it or didn't do it at all, would it free up money for more teachers and staff? And the answer to that is no. The money for the capital project isn't in the district's accounts. We borrow that money over time. In fact, completing the capital project and approving the capital project puts us in a better position in future years to make sure that we have adequate staff, including our teachers, because we won't be spending money that we otherwise would spend on programs for kids to fix leaky roofs, crumbling sidewalks, crumbling parking lots, electrical and plumbing, and broken boilers. So this project is tied only in one way to the operating budget, is that if we do it, we'll be able to finance that work and not have to dip into our operating budget and trade teachers for sidewalks or broken boilers. So it's really important for the public to understand these two projects support moving our district in a positive direction, continuing to provide the level of programs and services that help those kids meet those benchmarks and high standards that we all expect, and to help our teachers shine and continue to provide high-quality programming for our students. The bus purchase reserve is pretty straightforward. We propose to purchase 8 buses at a cost of $1 million. Our bus transportation system operates about 102 buses. We have a secular approach where we replace aging high-mileage buses with newer buses. We've also applied for funding that is available from the state for EV buses. Should we receive those funds, we may, upon approval of the board, use some of those funds to purchase 2 of those buses to be EV, but we haven't made that decision yet. We're under a mandate currently from New York State to no longer purchase diesel or gas buses by 2027, which is pretty difficult to meet. Additionally, by 2035, school districts across New York State are supposed to be in full operation without gas and diesel buses. It's a tough mandate to meet, but we are starting that process to look for resources that might be available to accomplish that. Again, in addition to the bus purchase reserve, the capital project, and the general operating budget, you have an opportunity to select 3 of 5 candidates who are running for our Board of Education. Cheryl Kennedy is an incumbent board member. We appreciate that Cheryl has been serving on the board and willing to continue to do so. Joanne Taylor is an incumbent board member. She is running for the board. Is Samantha Phillips here? Samantha Phillips is a resident of the district, and we thank you, Samantha, for stepping forward and being interested in serving on the board. Kim Turner, is Kim here? Kim is a parent in our district and is a PTO leader at Goff Middle School. And Catherine Van Orden is a citizen and a parent in the district, and she is also running for the board. And I want to thank you, Catherine, for agreeing to serve on the board. Very important that the public understand how to participate in the vote. We are required by law to make sure that we advertise the vote 4 times within 45 days preceding the vote. There's a lot of information available on our website. We are required in the public notice, which this presentation serves as the public notice, to make the budget documents available. There are some available here, but any resident of the community, any employee can obtain copies of the detailed line-by-line budget at the district office by contacting the clerk, which is Jean Pangburn, or any school buildings in the district. We also have copies of the budget in our public libraries at East Greenbush, North Greenbush, Sand Lake, and Nassau, or call us up and we'll make sure that we get you a copy. The voting date is May 21. We're required to review the propositions, which we've done, how to elect board members, and the registration process. The budget packet includes everything from our revenue detail to our expenditure detail, the property tax report card, which is a document that the board has already approved. The three-part budget is the program budget, the capital budget, which focuses on the facilities, and the administrative budget. Administrative salary disclosure, New York State law requires that anyone working for the school district as an administrator who has the name superintendent in it, such as myself, that the public be disclosed, the salary be disclosed to the public. Assistant superintendent, for example, also the salary has to be disclosed, as well as any administrator making more next year than $169,000. So that document is available to you to take a look at. New York State report card, full of both financial information and academic information, including the fact that we have 95% of our students graduate from high school in 4 years. Information regarding our English as a new language learners. And then the financial transparency report that gives you a little bit more of a granular look into our budget and how that budget is distributed over programs and buildings. A list of the property tax exemptions that are occurring within the district, as well as the specific language within the ballot propositions. The voting locations are Donald P. Sutherland for residents of the town of Sand Lake and Chatham, or residents with Nassau mailing addresses. Voting location 2 is Green Meadow Elementary School for residents of the town of Schodack without a Nassau mailing address. Voting location number 3 is right here, Howard L. Goff Middle School, for the residents of the town of East Greenbush, and for the residents of the town of North Greenbush, you vote at Belltop School. A little bit different this year in that there is an ability to do early voting, which I'll talk about in just a bit. To register for vote, you can register at Rensselaer County Board of Elections. You can register with the district clerk over at our building at Janay between 8 and 4. Or if you voted in the last 4 years, you don't need to register in the school election. The registry of voters has to be open to the public for anyone in the community that may want to review the list of registered voters. And so that can happen anytime between May 15th and May 20th at the district office between 8 and 4 at the office of the district clerk. In order to vote in a school board election, budget vote, you need to be a citizen of the United States, 18 years of age, resident of our school district for at least 30 days prior to the vote, and registered. Absentee ballots have been available and still are available. You can contact Jean Pangburn, again, at the district office, or they are available on our website. On our website, if you go to Budget and Tax and you scroll down, you will find that those applications for absentee ballots are available online. They are due by May 14th. If you're sending them in by mail, they are due by May 20th if you want to turn them in person. Valid reasons for an absentee ballot include that you are sick or hospitalized or have a disability, away on business, on vacation, or detained in jail. Additionally, all the ballots are due back by May 21st, which is the day of the vote, before 5 p.m. in order to be counted. Any more questions that you might have about the absentee ballot process, you can contact the board clerk. Early voting has been approved for school districts in our Rensselaer County. Some of you may have received something in the mail regarding that from the County Board of Elections. If anyone is interested in early voting because you're unavailable to vote on that day, there is an application, which is a separate application from the application for an absentee ballot. Again, they're available on the district's website. Those are due back by May 14th. Once you turn in the application, you will receive the ballot to vote. The ballots will be due back by the day of the vote at 5 p.m. What happens if the budget passes? We go forward and we continue to plan looking forward to next school year, all of our programs and our staffing to be able to continue to deliver high-quality education. If the budget is defeated, we can have an opportunity, should our board decide to go out for a second vote. That date is set by the state on June 18th. We can come out with the same budget. We can revise the budget. Again, that is done by the board. or we can adopt a contingent budget. Contingent budget puts us in a difficult position as our revenues are currently tight. And we would hope that that doesn't happen. So I know it was a pretty lengthy, we have a number of lengthy presentation. We have a number of propositions on the ballot. Wanted to take the time to distinguish what was happening with the capital project from the general fund budget. I'll take any questions that either the board or the public may have.
Start with the board members. Any questions or feedback? No?
Just a quick question. Mr. Simon, could you just I'll call you saying that it's the capital project is not going to impact the taxpayers because, less maintenance. Could you just explain like that less maintenance piece and how the capital project, keeps level with operation expenses?
Great question. So addressing the things that we need to address within our facilities and on our property through a capital project is really the best and most affordable way to do the work that needs to be done. Okay? And because if we get the public approval, we are able to submit our plans to the state education department, and we're able to get the 72% reimbursement for the project. Also, as we move forward, the money that we're utilizing to fix the boilers, electrical, the plumbing, upgrade the fields, the ceiling, won't be hitting our operating budget, which would result in our maintenance budget going up as a proportion of the budget and our instructional budget potentially being reduced. So this is the best way to do the kind of work that we need to do to keep our buildings, again, that range in age from 1939 to 1972, and not have it affect the programs and the services that the community has come to expect. Question. Thank you.
Anyone else? Just a comment too about the capital project. One of the things that we looked at during the building condition survey, the amount of work that actually was identified within the district was actually double what the proposed capital project was. And as a result of the work with our architects, the team here, construction managers and all those folks, we looked at what are the priority items that would benefit students, staff, and the community, and got it to this figure that was presented this evening. There's still work to be done, but I think this capital project is a really good head start on the really high need items, as well as the leveraging the support for the community to use our facilities and really invest in our district for the future.
I think I just want to add to Mr. Buno's point. In some of my conversations and some of the dialogue that we've had within the community regarding the capital project, it's important to understand that the scope of work, as Mr. Buno was saying, that really was identified that needs to be done was much larger than 116 million. But also a question came up, well, don't you during construction run into situations that you didn't anticipate? Aren't there costs that you can't fully predict? And of course there are. So we've had two different construction management firms review our estimates for the project, and Turner Construction that we hired really did a very thorough job of making sure that that final scope of work that we're proposing was very conservative, that we could be able to foresee, if we were able to foresee certain things that would come up, that we would be able to cover what we said we were going to do in that $116 million. So there's an escalation cost factor built into that. And there's also a factor, should we be doing work and encounter something that we didn't anticipate that increases our cost, it's built into the project so that we don't have to dip into the operating budget to address that work, because there's room in there for some flexibility.
Yep. The other piece I want to mention on the budget is the fact that if you looked at that, one of the original slides that Mr. Simon showed, the historical tax levy and the budget, the board and was very sensitive with COVID and the resources that were available through other funding to make sure that the impact on the taxpayer was minimized as much as possible, knowing that the economy and things that were impacting our families was significant, and a big portion of that is your school taxes. We want to make sure that we are really careful about how we use our money, how we use the funding that is entrusted to us as a school district, and to make sure that the funding that we use for the project as well, the district's conservative financial picture and also the ratings that we have make it very attractive in terms of the borrowing. But we also have to take advantage of the fact that construction costs are not going down. Material costs are not going down. Labor costs are not going down. And if we can do something and plan for the future now, it will help minimize that impact should we have to invest in catastrophic failures such as equipment, HVAC, electrical, roofs, things like that. And we've seen emergency projects and how expensive they can be to our district. So that careful planning process is important, and making sure that over the next several years, we get that work done. Also, I think it's important to know that if we have things that get done a little less expensive through the bidding process, it may open up opportunities to do other work in addition to what was identified. So we take advantage of those things and make sure that we maximize our dollars, our reimbursement from the state in all areas to make sure that we benefit the community and the taxpayers that work here in East Greenbush and our towns.
Thank you, Mr. Buno. Mr. Dunn?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about the capital project. I've been on the board for 12 years. A lot of the things on the punch list for this project, we have been discussing as a board for a very long time. And one of the key responsibilities of being a board member is not dealing with the day-to-day stuff, but also the long-term health of the district. And you can see we don't need to try to sell it to you. Just drive around the district and you can see the work that needs to be done. But a couple of points and factors. Educational environments change with time. Not only the aging building, but also the way we do things and the way we approach things and the spaces required. The technology is advancing at a pace that we can barely keep up with. So that's why this project is really important. And for the amount of money, it sounds like a lot, but what we're getting out of it is money well spent for the future. It's not about today, it's where are we going as a district. And you have two parallel courses. And for those of you who are going to be potential board members, that's the real challenge, and is to separate emotion from fact. The fact is we are retiring debt. We talked about the debt that's been retiring when I did the last capital project. So this is about timing and state aid, but it's really about our community, and it's really about where we're taking our students for the future when these projects aren't going to be done for years. And as Mike said, not to belabor the point, we all know that construction costs very rarely go backwards. So I think it's really important to support not only the budget is a very mindful and well thought out budget, but the capital project I can't stress it enough how passionate I am that we need this work done. Just this building alone and the wasted space that's here will enhance the district and the quality of the experience, not only for our students, but for the community. So to the team that put this together and to my fellow board members, thank you for the long-term planning and commitment to moving this district forward in a very sound financial manner.
Thank you, John.
I just wanted to add to, I really appreciate you starting off with showing the accolades of our staff, of our students, showing, that we have a history of putting dollars to work in the most effective way possible, efficiently, and that we're going to continue to see those exact kind of results, and we're doing it fiscally responsible. So we're already getting results, and we're headed towards more results, by the use of these funds.
Thank you, Mr. Temple.
Anyone else, board members? Now open up to any questions or comments from the public. Anyone? No? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. With that, we will move to close our public hearing and move to our regular board meeting. I need a motion to close the public hearing. Jesse, second. Anyone? Joanne, all those in favor? Closing the meeting. Very good. We'll now go to, let's see, all of us got to switch to our other agenda on our board docs. All right, so I will call the regular board meeting to order. All board members are now present. I will waive the pledge since we've already done that. And we will move to the approval of draft minutes. Looks like for April 23rd, Emily was not here. So any questions, revisions, or comments on the minutes from April 23rd? Seeing none, need a motion to approve that. Jesse, need a second? Jennifer? All those in favor? All those abstaining? Approved. Thank you. Board forum, an opportunity for our board members to talk on topics relevant to the district. Start on my left with Cheryl. Anything?
Just want to say happy Teacher Appreciation Week.
Very good. Yes.
So we all appreciate
I
our
think it's like
teachers,
school nurses and teachers and
everybody.
a lot of educators. Yes. Excellent. Yep. Michelle? Mr. Dunn? Mr. May? Ms. O'Brien? Good. Mr. Temple? Ms. Taylor? And Ms. Steinbeck? No. I don't have anything at this time. We'll move to the public forum. Residents, students, employees, and business representatives of the East Greenbush Central School District may address the board on matters concerning programs and/or operations of the district other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns in the public forum. If a response is appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting. It should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed the visitors forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which may be considered defamatory or stigmatizing or prohibited, it will declare it out of order. All comment shall be limited to 5 minutes. Anybody like to address the board at this time? Anyone? Mr. Harkin.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Harkin, principal at Columbia High School. I just wanted to let the board know that on Friday, we successfully completed our application for our civic readiness seal and our seal of
nice.
biliteracy. So we'll have some new graduates with some new attachments in June, and we're very excited about it. We have over 30 children that will be getting that. Mr. Wagner is part, well, I don't know Mr. Wagner, but he was part of the committee that reviewed the students. They've worked hard all year. And they're a great group of kids, and I'm very excited to have that on the diplomas this year, and you'll see that in the programs at graduation. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harkin. Yes, sir.
I just had a question. 'Cause
Could you identify
I
yourself
heard
first?
Something tonight I didn't realize.
Sir, could you
I'm a
just,
certified election inspector for Rensselaer County.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind working your polls sometime, because
Okay.
I've done it now for 28 years, I think, at Rensselaer County here.
nice.
Worked at a Red Mill School for a long time. Now we work out of Melbourne Roads. I have 3 districts. Been a committee chairman one time, all that stuff. My name is Floyd Hunt. I do music as a DJ. I remember I played in here for Halloween parties, all that good stuff. So if anybody wants to get a hold of me after your meeting, I'll give you one of my cards if you want to contact me. And
All right.
you're probably already filled up for this month, but if you want to do it next year, that's fine.
You can see Jeannie, the board
That
clerk.
would be fine. Yeah.
We always,
'Cause we just got a pay raise this year in Rensselaer County. We're
right.
now part of Rensselaer County employees. We don't fill out a little paper anymore. So
okay.
we're in the big time now. We got a pay raise and everything, you know?
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Floyd.
Yeah, I'll
Sorry,
speak to
Mr.
you
Hunt.
after you get everybody else
Floyd Hunt.
their questions, what have you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for helping out. Anyone else? No exciting news from our elementary principals or middle school? Anybody want to? No? All right. Glad to be back here at Goff. I like this setting for our public hearing. Mr. Simons to get out of the little admin building is a little tight in there, so gets a chance to spread out a little bit. So
That's because you got all the elbow room.
that's
tonight.
right. Oh, the other thing I want to say, the budget newsletter, this is going out in the mail tomorrow. Other copies in the back? I wasn't sure. But if not, it's fantastic. I have to say, this is probably one of the sharpest looking newsletters I've seen, full of information. I want to commend communications and whoever contributed to the newsletter. Very informative. The pictures, the kids, which is number one in my heart, is just a lot of good stuff here. So make sure that you keep those and take a look. Hope we can submit it for some awards, right, Mr. Simons?
Absolutely.
Okay, next I'll turn over to Mr. Simons again. capital project planning.
Not much more to say about the capital project, other than we've had a number of meetings and opportunities to interact with the public and to provide information. We had a community forum at the high school. We put some more information online. We went down to the youth soccer program on Phillips Road on Saturday and spoke to a number of our families. I thank Ryan Jones for joining me, and James Thomas from Turner, who's also a resident.
Yep.
Came down and helped out with that. Big opportunity, not just to hear about the capital project and get information, but there's a really special event next week, the art show, which
Yes.
we're really looking forward to. And visitors there will also be not only treated to some of the finest artwork in New York State, done by the finest students and teachers in New York State, but also we'll have people there to distribute the information. We also have our Columbia All Sports group that will be attending some home games next week, and we've given them a special flyer to distribute to the public. And we got limited time left, but we're open to any meetings that we can come to explain the capital project.
Excellent. Excellent.
I do have a special presentation, Mr. Buno, tonight that's not on the agenda, not to catch you by surprise.
Okay.
but
Just a quick comment on the
You'll understand.
project plan. Okay. I just want to say too, the information that we share on our website through all these meetings, through community involvement, the volunteer time, people go and do things on weekends, meeting our parents, meeting our community, our folks out there. Just there's a lot of information shared. I really want to commend, this board, previous boards and administration, and those who give of their time to help disseminate that information, to put things together so people are informed when they come to vote. Just there's so much information, it can be overwhelming, but also it's important to us to reach everybody and try to have those meetings. You have them internally, externally, and get that information out. So it's really great to see, and that's one of our goals. We set as a board years ago was transparency, commitment to communication, over communication, and getting that information to our community. So thank you for doing all those efforts.
So I think that it's quite fitting as we talk about the board election and the commitment of the board, and certainly grateful that both incumbents and citizens want to step forward and serve on school boards. One of the things that our Board of Education does really well is they tend to their own professional development by attending the New York State School Boards Association conferences and workshops. And recently there's been some workshops that our board members have expressed interest in. Today I received a special letter regarding two of our board members from the New York State School Boards Association. And the first involves a Lifetime Achievement Award for the number of leadership development opportunities that our board president, Mike Buno, has participated in since being on the board, earning a total of 500 points. He is receiving this evening a Lifetime Achievement plaque. That might mean he needs a lifetime contract to be on the board from the New York State School Boards Association. In addition to the plaque, we have a scholarship to attend the convention next October. So you'll be saving the district some money. We appreciate that. And a very nice pen set from the New York State School Boards Association. Mr. Buno and the board, they spend a lot of time above and beyond the 2 meetings a month serving our community. So congratulations to Mr. Buno. Okay. Additionally, one of our other board members, Jennifer O'Brien, has been participating in a lot of professional development since she has been on the board. And she is receiving a Level 1 Board Achievement Award and a certificate of recognition for her participation in School Boards Association leadership training, totaling 75 points. So Board Achievement Award to Jennifer O'Brien.
Just a quick comment. I think, the School Boards Association just does offer a lot of information, a lot of opportunities to learn and grow as a professional in terms of the board service, what it's all about, how we can better improve our service to our communities. And, I'm humbled by this. I didn't expect anything like this, but the conferences especially have been very valuable to me, over the years, getting to know my board colleagues, getting to learn more of what's happening across the state, and just how we can bring that information and benefit our school community. So it's important to me and to, I hope, others to continue to develop and learn from those opportunities. So appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Pino.
And I think it's in New York City.
It is.
I think it is,
Yeah.
Wow.
which is great.
What else we got?
Bear with me, Mr. Pino, because I lost my agenda
Okay.
on the computer.
Policy.
So this policy is a revision that is required by New York State School Boards, by New York State and provided by New York State School Boards Association. It's a revision to the policy related to the purchasing agent within the district. The new requirements require that the policy name the individual by name, which is Jennifer Mulligan, our Director of Business and Finance, and also indicates that should the person change, that the board is required to update the policy. I sent it out to the policy committee. The policy committee had no questions or concerns. So this would be first reading. If you want to bypass the first reading and simply adopt it, you could do that as well.
It's kind of just a pro forma changes, nothing significant. Does anyone have any
Substantive other than
questions?
naming the purchasing agent.
If everyone's okay with that, do you want to move to approve it? You go right to second reading and approve the policy, right? And I need a motion to approve the policy. Jennifer, second. Jesse? All those in favor? Approved. All right. Next, we, on our agenda is an opportunity for us as a board to discuss information and items that come to us. And the first one is on the special grants for 24-25. Some filler information. Is Marissa going to fill us
Yes,
in?
turn it over to Marissa Cannon.
All right,
Thank you,
Marissa.
Mr. Pino and Mr. Simons. The teacher's contract has a provision for professional development where the district will provide $40,000 of funding annually in terms of special grants. The purpose and the intent of the special grant is to provide a personal educational experience for teachers and related service providers that will enrich and enhance their expertise in their designated subject area. The broad purpose is to be achieved by providing these monies for use next fiscal year from July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 for our teachers and related service providers to participate in national conferences, training, or engage in other professional development programs where such programs and conferences do need to be pertinent to their assignment area in the district. The submission for special grants began on February 27th. With an application deadline of March 22nd. Once the deadline occurred, we met with our special grants committee. Our special grants committee is comprised of representatives from our Teachers Association, Administrators Association, myself, and our board member, Mrs. O'Brien. Our committee received 16 grant applications with grant requests totaling $56,541. So our committee had a difficult task of narrowing down those grant applications to meet the contractual provision of the $40,000. Our committee takes into consideration teachers and related service providers who have already been awarded a special grant. Historically, our committee looks back 10 years, so we have an adequate note and reference point of who has been approved in the past. And then we also strive to make sure as a committee that our recommendations represent a variety of content areas across the district, as well as related services. So today we are recommending 11 of the 16 grants to be approved in the amount of $39,281.18.
Any questions or comments, board members?
Just a comment that some of these look very interesting, and I know we've talked about maybe having them come back and kind of give us a rundown on some of the things that they picked up, on a couple of them. If you guys would like to pick that, that'd be very interesting, I think, for the community to see.
We can definitely do that.
Yeah, I was just going to add, this was my first year on the committee. I really enjoyed the meeting, and it's really encouraging to see how many of our faculty members are really invested in wanting to learn more. I wanted to say yes to everything. We obviously had a budget, but we came pretty close, and there's some really interesting ones. So I think, Michelle, we should invite a couple for sure.
And I can work with the Board of
Yeah.
Education on that for next
Yeah.
year.
And,
Sure,
and, sorry, go ahead.
I notice a lot of these are conferences and events. Does that committee take into account the multiple people going to one event? I think that, sometimes I'm just wondering why two folks would be going to one event. And if they bring it back to their department and share with the entire, entire staff that's relevant. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
That's a great question. So that is the goal for the departments to bring back their expertise and what they've learned and turnkey that over to the department. We do look at the number of individuals requesting to attend the same conference. Our committee actually made a determination on one of the conferences for the Reading League where they had requested $8,417 for 3 people. We reached out to those 3 individuals and asked them to reconsider and have 2 individuals go, which they did. And that's why the amount is $5,612. So our committee does take a look at that. And when we see, maybe too many people going, we do reach out to those individuals who applied and have a conversation with them.
So there's not a specific business need for every single individual, but you do seek that out when you're reviewing it. Is
Yes.
that what you're?
And I think the other thing, when you're attending conferences like this, there's so many, seminars during the day. So if we send 2, we can cover more.
Divide
And that's the
conquer.
idea, to come back to the department, both, I think, in the elementary school and then hopefully with the greater department.
Yeah, so I think
District-wide.
that's my point, and that's what makes it a business need, Jen. If there's a work,
A large conference.
separate groups, and then you have people going to different streams, right?
Mhm.
But then still bringing all of that back
Yeah.
to the department.
Yeah.
I'm not on this committee, so I can't speak to that, but it is generally something that, you would ask to review what's, why are 2 people going? Because we're denying some folks, and so I want to make sure that there's a business need for 2 people to go as we're denying other people.
Yeah, I think the second part of the question is how does that information get back to
Yeah.
the department, through PD days, through other professional learning communities, things like that? Anything you can share, Roy or Marissa, about those?
Yeah, so every special grants applicant has to provide a report back to my office, and our principals also are very involved in it. So all of our principals had to review those applications prior to the submission to the district office. And after the special grant conference or program has occurred, there is a collaboration component with the building level teams to relay that information out.
Anything to add? PD?
No, I guess I would just add that, all of these conferences that through the special grants that staff are, supported by the district to go are definitely things that align to the work that we're doing, which I think is important work that committee does, is to make sure that the work that the conferences that folks are going to supports our work within the district, and then how is that communicated back to grade levels or departments or buildings.
Great. Anyone else? No? All right. Thank you for the
Marissa, is
information.
there any opportunity for the folks that did not get awarded to find private money somewhere? I mean, I don't know if that's a ridiculous question, but, vendors or something that might be able to sponsor?
That's something we can definitely look into.
I don't even know if it's a possibility, but it's something that they could, turn towards if they don't get approval.
Get a
to try
nice
to get
certificate for.
I can work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I can work with Mr. Stiles' office, and we can do some research on that to see if there's any possibility.
So the only other thing I would like to add too is this clearly is not the only professional
Right.
development
Right,
that goes
right.
on within the district. These, again, I don't know all of the history behind the special grants, but these are for those larger, more national conferences. But we also clearly support, more of the local events. These are just for those larger, kind of overnight type of national conferences. But I could pull a report and, kind of show you all of the professional development that we supported, throughout the year. This is a very, small piece.
I'm just
Okay.
wondering if there's any grants or something out there from,
to help
private
folks go.
companies. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe working with our EGTA partners, we can look into that.
Well, the one is soccer, is there any organizations, local soccer club that might want to fund something? I don't, I'm just throwing it out there.
All right, moving on to the UPK lottery process and some location assignment. There was some questions from board members regarding some follow-up. The lottery was the 24th. We talked about that. And then subsequently, there was some conversations around opportunities for parents to look at other locations perhaps, and a process really to identify how we can do that and manage that. Since our program has grown to multiple locations. And I think if we can have Roy give us a little overview.
Sure.
Is that what we want to do? And then
Yes.
we're going to take questions from the board about.
Yeah, if you want, sure, I'll just give
The
an
process.
overview first.
Sure.
So, you are correct. So we've increased our UPK from 97 slots to 165, and adding locations to that as well. So we opened up that whole process back in February 7th. So from February 7th to March 8th, that was the registration period where families, could choose to register. We got 179 applicants from that. So then each student was given a number. And in April, early April, we sent out a form where those 179 applicants could rank their preferences, 1 through 9, which would then help us after the lottery is to, slot them in. So we had our lottery on the 24th. On the 25th, we posted the lottery results and then began that selection process based off of the number. So for example, if you were selected number 1, then we went and you clearly got your first spot. So that process went all the way down until Janae Elementary School slots were full. And then if, for example, Janae was your first spot, it was full, we then went to your second spot, maybe that was Red Mill, and that was the one that you were put in, and went down that list until we got through 165. We then informed the families all that information and gave a week until May 3rd for the families to let us know if they're going to accept or decline. That way we would know if they declined, we would then move on to the wait list. So what we then did was we did have, a few families decline. Ultimately, when they decline, they just go onto the wait list. Again, it's not like they're just completely gone. So what we did was through my office, we would then work if, for example, a family, was selected for Holy Spirit, which maybe was their third location, but then through some declines, maybe a Janae spot opened and that was higher up on their selection, we would kind of give them a call, ask them if they would want. Many of them actually were like, no, we're good. We accepted. We're all set. Over 75% of the selected families got their first or second choice. And we're still kind of going through now, after we receive the people who may have declined with their openings, we're going through the wait list now. So that's the process that we're in. After those families have selected, they then get the official registration information, and they're either sending those in electronically or able to come into the office and fill that paperwork out. So for the most part, to be honest with you, it's going very, very smooth. And this process is the same process that we have been using for the last few years.
Just expanded.
It's just expanded. And I think when you have expanded locations, more people, more options, can create some possible difficulties.
So some of the questions that came up were about the ability to switch. So that process is going through right now. Is there any other opportunities to make any changes if people ask?
So, we do feel that it's important to stick with the process.
Sure.
We really didn't want to, get into something where, through social media, for example, someone says, hey, I got this location. Is anybody interested in switching? I'd really like this location. We didn't feel as though allowing that really would be fair to everyone because we had the lottery process. So we didn't want, kind of a side deal to be made between families. We felt that keeping the process true to what the district handling it was the most fair and appropriate way to do it.
So what happens if someone moves out of the district and then their slot goes away? Does it open up anything else for the wait list that might be there?
It would
Other
open up
opportunities?
again, correct?
Okay, other
Yes.
opportunities?
Mhm,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is there any questions about that? I know that came up. through
I
the
just have a
process.
question. So we pulled 165. How many have declined? Do you know? I'm
Um,
just curious.
Don't completely quote me, but I believe
Just
I
around.
believe it was 9.
Okay,
Some of that was through, a few declined,
okay.
but then also, what has come up a little bit is we may have a pre-K student who receives some special education services possibly. And through their special education services, they are able to get pre-K, their needs met at a different
That's right.
location that
Okay.
wouldn't be at a pre-K site. So our special education office has communicated that with some of the families,
Okay.
for them to have a clear understanding of that, which then opened up, a possible location.
So say we had the 9 or 10 that declined, so we're working through, you said there were 14 on the wait
Correct,
list. So
exactly.
9 of those 14 could possibly come
Yes.
into the fold.
Yep.
That's good.
I have a comment. I wanted to just thank you, Roy. I'm Mr. Styles, I'm sorry, but no, I wanted to thank you for, I know it was difficult, in short order, us just approving not too long ago, our expanded pre-K, in the scramble that it had to be, to expand it and conduct the lottery and make the assignments. But with that said, I just wanted to just say, looking forward, like certainly, we want to get the program operational but looking forward, one of the questions that jumped out to me was our communication, right? I know we communicated through several different channels, but when I saw preferences, like that, there was some preference challenges. I was wondering, are we reaching a similar type of parent? So I was wondering, like, equity and access to our communication channels. I was wondering, is there questions about the quality of all our program sites, about perception, that might drive some of our, targeting of specific sites? Or is it parents coming from a similar community? So those were some of the things, just being intentional, making sure that we're having as broad of a reach as possible, and finding those parents who might not, like if it's someone, if English isn't their second language, I suppose, but mind you, again, I don't think there was time, for us to, in this instance, but long-term, just thinking intentional about those aspects. I also just wanted to say too, I also was thinking about measuring, some of those questions like quality of the programming, and even, questions like out of 165, if that's the number, like openings, do we even have the data to scientifically, measure, to measure, the success of our programs? And just one of my things is I really am interested in linking like a partnership with the academic institution or some educational professionals who might be experts at data, numbers and what's statistically significant that could answer some questions about our programming. So if we do have perception in the community, that we could generate an approach to answering some of those questions. But I just kind of just wanted to just elevate and raise the awareness just around when I was reading it, what I was thinking. But certainly, I think, we did an excellent job, and I just wanted to thank you, and just looking forward, just, continuous growth, like you were saying in one of your other presentations, I think is always the target.
Yeah, so thank you, Jesse. So I do think we tried to be very mindful of geographically where we're able to offer our pre-K sites. I think we're really happy to add the North Greenbush location at Tudor Time, because I think that was kind of an area in the district that didn't have a pre-K site necessarily close to it. But I do understand what you're saying. So now that we've expanded our sites and expanded providers, those programs, I'm very confident are all strong programs, but they all are going to be a little bit unique because they are different providers. So I think throughout next year and beyond, we'll make sure that, we're in the sites, we're really evaluating what those programs' quality is. And then, kind of working with, like you said, some data that we are able to get. And then could we think about, what are some ways to kind of track that progress long-term? I think, general data that you would get is clearly, pre-K is important and it's beneficial to decipher the actual programs that we're offering.
No, thank you.
So I do want to applaud you as well. You made a pretty simple thing as complete as possible in a short amount of time, and it's all manual. So thank you for that. That's a lot of undertaking. It's pretty scientific a little bit. I've had a couple comments. The comments that I've heard is not really about preference. In fact, one of the comments was on, I got 3 and then I came back and I got my choice of 2. And they were very appreciative of that. The challenge is the after and the beginning. And they also seem to understand we can't necessarily help that, and so they understood that they went to a place that had it, but it was very costly. It was more costly than their private daycare. So they chose to do that, but they were very appreciative of that. And that was from my neighborhood that we gave them this opportunity. And then we even came back and kind of made it even sweeter, but just didn't work for them. So I want to bring that back and tell you that we are making an impact. And thank you very much for that.
I do need to say, my secretary, Ms. Dorothy, the amount of work that she's putting in, to it behind the scenes and, making sure that, no one is getting missed. We clearly don't want to have someone who is ranked higher in the lottery to, not get the opportunity that, the lottery would have had them do. To be honest, I was a little bit nervous this year that we expanded and offered some additional sites that had kind of some wraparound services. I was a little nervous that maybe our school sites would not have the, not look as attractable because of that. But really our school sites still were the ones that filled up the quickest.
And I agree. Social media, nope, that's not the place for it. And just kind of, this isn't a lottery. So, after that, so yes.
One of the things we talked about originally when we proposed pre-K was outcomes, measurements, and making sure that the curriculum and was supporting our kids socially and academically, and making sure that they were successful when they moved on to kindergarten. As well as I think maybe a parent survey, exit survey, may be helpful to say, how can we improve the process? What can we do to benefit your child? What would it be? What can we go back to our community providers? What are you missing? What are some of the things that we see that could be added to that curriculum? Because, we're paying the bill. And if we want consistency, we're gonna make sure that those measurables and those pieces that we want for our kids in our community and our families is consistent across those programs with variations, obviously, and then make sure that this is sustainable. This is we talk about sustainability of pre-K for the future for our families. And that's a commitment this board made, but we also want to demonstrate to our community that it was valuable and beneficial to the families as well as their academic preparation as they entered elementary school and then kindergarten. So,
Great. I'd
preaching
like
the
to
choir
say
there.
something. First off, just thank you for expanding the program this year. I think since being on the board, it is one thing that, having younger children, right? 11-month-old and a 5-year-old that I constantly have conversations about early education, about pre-K, the importance. And I think that this district is responsive and that's because of your administration's efforts and listening to the board and the community. So I thank you all for that. And I think we're going in the right direction. I always caution and say we call this universal pre-K, but it is not universal because people are not receiving pre-K, right? So we should continue to talk about it and plan until it is truly universal. And that I think that is the end game, right? That's the goal. And we have to continue applying pressure and talk about it so that it doesn't get forgotten on all the levels, right?
Right.
So happy to continue to do that. One of the, and I do have a few questions and I'll do some comments first, is that I definitely believe that the pre-K, the lottery process, the whole program is an administrative burden. And I believe that does lie on the district, that administrative burden we as public servants take that on because that is our role and that is why we're here, right? We provide this service to the community. And so whenever we can lessen an administrative burden on our families, on those people, I think that it is our duty to do that. And I understand that that means sometimes more work on our end. And, I do appreciate that. And those of us, right, who are public servants day and night, we understand that and we live by that ethos. So, I want to acknowledge that as well. One of the things that I feel like this program absolutely needs, and I urge the district to think about this, is that I think we need a formalized, plan and, kind of looking at standard operating procedure, what we do, and when it would come time to release this every year, we could have FAQs that just answer all these questions. And I think transparency is really important in this process. And the more that we share and the vehicles in which we do it is important. I noticed this year you submitted the application and then we came back and asked for a location. Previous years, you put your location on the same form as the application, if I remember that. So I think that there may, and I don't know if that was delayed because we did the RFP and we were still deciding on locations. I assume that's right. But I think that we should, whenever best, be able to give folks an overview and kind of communicate it in the best way possible. And I appreciate, conversations on social media. I understand that there's a time and a place for everything, but unfortunately we live in the world of social media. And if we need to communicate in that way to folks more, then I think that we should be mindful to do that. And I'm not saying on any channels, but our official channels, but I think that maybe we should be communicating this more and maybe our policies should be more clearly stated. The more we are transparent up front, I think it helps right on the back end, and it helps with the perception, as Jesse was talking about, which I think is important. So those are a few of my comments and suggestions as we move forward with this program. I also think that the board and the district needs to talk about oversight of this program and an official and evaluation. And I don't think we're going to do it service in the long run if it's hodgepodge and we don't give it the time and the space and the resources it needs. So I think we should think about that, and no one wants to add more positions and no one wants to take on additional staff. But I think that we need to understand if the administrative burden is too great for any one individual, then I think that's a conversation to be had at a later date. So hopefully we can start to think about those things. I'm always grateful and happy to talk about pre-K, and I'll never stop talking about it. A couple questions though I did have about the process is, do we give location preferences to families with siblings? So you get a lottery, right? You put your your application in and you go through the lottery. Do we take any indication of this family has a sibling at a school that has pre-K? Do we give preference to that, or do they go in the lottery like everyone else?
They go in the lottery, correct. The only preference that we do is we had a handful of sets of twins that were in the lottery. So for example, the twins, so that they didn't have the family didn't have a higher percentage of getting selected. The twins were on the same, ultimately ping pong ball. It would be like number 18 and number 19. And those twins, we would make sure if they were selected, they went to the same location. But in terms of other siblings, no.
I think it's really hard. And I mean, this is when I think best practices is really important, and doing our research and understanding what other districts do and what makes a success, right? And it's like, thinking about that, and when we do that, it's if we say you bring your older kid goes to this school and those are their hours, but I have to bring my younger kid, my pre-K now, to this school that are this hours, and then I have to get to work at this time. And I think about it, and I'm a working mother, and I have a full-time job, and I have two kids, different age gaps, different schools, and it's a lot. And I think that we should, I'm not saying what the answer is, I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but we should look into those types of things. And I think that asking, the community for feedback would be ideal. How do we make this program stronger, and how do we make, this process better? I think that we should be asking those questions, and maybe not it's not on social media to have that discussion, but I think that we should be asking those sort of questions, especially in regards to siblings and that kind of stuff, because what you end up having is someone who has to decline a spot because they can't drive both of their kids, or they can't drive a kid to school while they're waiting for the other kid to get a bus and make it to work on time. And I think that that's really unfortunate, especially if that family could really benefit from pre-K. So I already asked that we have, policies clearly stated up front. I think we need to move towards that. And it was already touched on, but I do believe that we need to put strong efforts into the evaluation of sites. And with that, I think that we are now doing business with, daycares and those sorts of things who do get inspected and do have different rules they abide by, totally different regulatory body. And I think that it's really important if our services and our students and our families are now in that realm of an organization, that we have to be mindful of that. So does the district have a plan on how to monitor violations for these daycare centers, understanding that this center is in the same spot where you're having your pre-K classroom? I don't know about teacher swapping. I don't know about coverage. But I think that if we could ask those sorts of questions and look into that, I think it's very important. The quality is something that I think we need to be mindful of, especially when we have multiple different, sites. And if that wasn't explicitly stated in the RFP, violations need to be reported within X amount of time frame. I think that we need to start to put on those sorts of, questions or requirements to these centers.
Yeah.
Because we're now in a space that we were never in before.
Like, just a comment, and I appreciate what Emily said. You took a lot of what I was going to say, and I'm just going to expand. This program,
John,
as we
who said I
talked.
was done?
Oh, I thought you were.
No,
I
I'm just kidding.
apologize.
I'm done.
See, I thought you were
But
finished.
I know, I'm just trying to.
No, I thought you were finished because I've been done all my life.
No.
So,
Done all my life.
to expand on that, this was an ad hoc situation that arose out of the ashes of the COVID money. And I strongly agree with what she's saying. And I would recommend that the board and the administrators form a committee to actually develop a true policy of pre-K, because we really don't, we're plugging it in because it was a fly-by-wire scenario.
Yes.
So I think in moving forward, that I would strongly recommend that because of a lot of factors, but also advising parents on the form that if they, put it in there that if you have a student at this location, be sure that you do X, Y, and Z, because that is part of our policy anyways in dealing with grade level siblings. So basically taking the pre-K programming, aligning it to our policies that match what we're currently doing through K through 5. And the second component of this, and this is for the future, is developing advocacy from this district and other districts to really enhance and tackle the issues of pre-K. We're calling it universal pre-K. We're calling it all these different things. But the real stumbling block for people today with exercising a pre-K option is the hours. Because they cannot get access. I mean, they want to send their kids, but they cannot get the daycare access on both ends. So that has to align with people and where they are at in a more modern sense. And, we all have a story in our own families.
Right.
And so that to me is a greater hurdle to exercising this option than just about anything is as access, and it's because of employment and conditions. And I think as a district, we need to spearhead that and really challenge the state with the funding, the hours, and taking pre-K to that standard that people expect. So I support what you're doing, and I appreciate the hurdle, Roy. And I do support the district looking at somebody to actually administer that other than Roy, because I think it needs more hands-on as this develops, as folks have said. Just working for you today, Roy.
Just a couple comments that I was writing down when you were talking. So I do agree that when you expand any program, especially a pre-K program where you are going to multiple sites and multiple vendors, ultimately, that creates some obstacles in terms of oversight, like you mentioned, in terms of, equity in programming. So I think that's going to be something we're going to continue to look at. That evaluation process, is going to be important. In terms of the lottery piece, I will work with our attorney and check, because when you're receiving UPK money, there are some guidelines around the lottery. So I don't know if what you said is something that's actually allowed, to be honest. Don't quote me on that, but I'm going to check with our attorneys on that. And then also, the RFPs clearly have been done, but we then still work with actual contracts with each vendor. So I'll work with our attorneys to see if there's some different things that we can put in the actual contracts with the sites.
And have we ever approached the vendors to see if they would be willing to give a discount to some of our preschoolers to stay in the pre and after school? Because that's what I heard, is it's very costly in some of the ones as well. And so people, they can't afford it,
Right.
you know.
So I don't know the exact dollars off the top of my head. I did originally hear that one of the sites seemed to be fairly high.
Yeah.
I don't know if through feedback from families, but they did change that and lower
Oh,
that
okay.
that price, so that they all are, I don't know if I want to say reasonable, but they all are in the ballpark of each other.
Okay.
Reasonable daycare,
Yes.
it's probably probably an oxymoron. Yeah, I don't know.
I know that the state does provide a lot of resources through the Office of Early Learning. They do a lot of programs, capture data. There's technical support centers. Obviously Western has a full-time principal there too, Mike Burns, who we know, and he can help support those efforts as well. So, all right, good. Yeah, very good. All right, good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you all.
You guys took a lot of notes.
Yes.
Moving on from discussion items, regular business. Approval of programs for residents and children with disabilities. Questions or comments there? Seeing none.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, sure.
So I was wondering just about these programs, and I'm gonna use my personal experience as an example. I know last year there was a recommendation for my son's IEP where there was a certain placement that was recommended, but there wasn't like spaces available. And what I'm wondering is, and I just mean this in a sense of being aware of where our limitations are, and because there's budgets, and sometimes we cannot always make accommodations even in the face of a recommendation, but in a sense of us being aware of the choices that we make or not making. Like I'm just wondering, when we look at these programs, how will we know if there are certain decisions that we're not making in the face of a recommendation? And it's just, and it goes back just to the intentional piece where, just having that discourse and saying, how can we strategically place funds or not place funds depending upon the needs of the district. So I just wanted to just, surface that. And
I'll have to review that with Dr. Pennant.
okay,
Thank you for bringing it up.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just clarify what you kind of just asked? So are you saying that there's a potential for students not getting whatever is recommended because of resources?
I can't be sure of what occurred in that instance. What I know is that last year, there was a recommendation for a certain setting, for my child with an IEP, and it wasn't available at the time. And it's just a matter of so what I'm just wondering is just us intentionally making those
Right.
choices where
Right.
we're aware at the board
I
level.
think the issue goes to reviewing the continuum of options that are available for children with disabilities. Some of what enters into it is, we are required to provide the program of services that the Committee on Special Education, but there may be different locations within the district that those same programs and services could be offered. Sometimes it's an honest, open discussion of an evaluation of what's best for the child at the CSE with the parent involved. There are methods if the class is full to approve, get a waiver from the state education department to have one more child, for example, or two more children in a particular program. So I'll have to look at the details of that, but we are obligated to follow the IEP, and we look at the totality of the children that are in need of perhaps changes in their programs of services and consider the options that are available. And I'll just have to evaluate it a little bit more to be able to respond with any more direct information.
Any questions or comments? Need a motion to approve that. Joanne, I need a second. Jesse, all those in favor? Approved. Next is the Bonadio and Company Engagement Letter Audit for 23-24.
Jennifer Mulligan.
Ms. Mulligan.
Yes, so we're about to engage on our next external audit year for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. So this is the engagement letter or the contract to have Bonadio perform those services. This is our third year under an RFP with them. So the Finance and Audit Committee will be reviewing and doing an RFP process next year for our external audit. And Bonadio will be attending our next audit committee meeting to deliver the audit plan.
So 3 years RFP, Jen?
3 years, yep, and this is the last year on that RFP.
Jennifer, did we do a full RFP last time? I don't know if I recall it being done.
I believe, I'd have to look into that, but I understand it's on a 3-year cycle.
I was
So-
thinking we may have ran into challenges with
COVID.
staffing, and so we chose not to go, but I could be wrong, go out for an RFI. But again, they're a good group, they're very
Mhm.
well-known in the school district, so I get that, but I don't know if we did one the last time.
Yeah, I'll have to look into the details.
We did do one because I haven't been here that long and we did it one.
Did we?
When you started.
Yeah,
Talked about
I
not
believe
doing
it's,
it, right?
this is the end of the third.
So I've sat in on one. so
Yeah,
yes.
yep. Yeah, Jeannie indicated
Okay,
that we
thank
did, yes.
Good, all right. Need a motion to approve the engagement letter and Bonadio. John, second. Michelle, all those in favor? Approved. Transportation contract. Any comments or questions on that? Any background needed?
This is an individual contract, which is in compliance with New York State Education Department to reimburse a parent for transportation of a student in a unique situation.
Which we've had those before, yeah.
Yes, which we approved one last year as well.
That's right. Need a motion to approve that. Michelle, second. Cheryl, all those in favor? Everybody, good? All right, approved. Just making sure, don't want to miss anybody. All right, and finally, on regular business, tax litigation settlement with the Greenbush Hotels 2 LLC. Any questions or comments on that?
Very quick comment.
Yes, Jesse.
So I'm not the biggest fan of settlements in the sense of, I feel like sometimes you have to decide when to fight back. Like it's my understanding that, by settling, we also don't recruit our attorney fees. And one of the first questions, not that, I really need, not that I was searching for how much time was allocated for this specific litigation, but it's just that we allocated time for the litigation. And I just think that sometimes by settling, we could invite, challenges to say, hey, if they always settle, let's challenge and we'll receive something in return. And all the time, we could lose, whether it's the tax proceeds, the attorney fees. And I think just having a stance, not saying that this is the time for us to fight, but I think we should have an attitude of willingness, to battle when, we are challenged.
And I definitely appreciate that sentiment
Yeah.
because I feel the same way sometimes. But then when I look at it, I'm looking at it from a broader standpoint as people are challenging their assessments. And, we're struggling to balance our budget with revenues and we're seeing more of these. But our process for our firm and the towns are to your own independent appraisal of the property. And sometimes when that appraisal comes in a way that favors the potential of the litigation to go in favor of the business that's seeking its assessment to be reduced, we make a judgment call. And based on the recommendation of the attorneys, if the settlement provides a more favorable consideration regarding revenue, for example, not having refunds in prior years that were sought initially from the litigation, we look at the financial benefit to the district versus the risk of going to court and potentially having a decision made in favor of the property owner, and then we lose that, then we have to pay that money back for prior year's rebates. Jen, I don't know if you have anything to add, but that's kind of the process. But we do look at one in each case. We look at them all, and we're going to have some further conversations about those.
Right, yes, yeah, we'll have some further conversations about that. It's really a risk process, cost, in terms of litigation, some of the results and making sure that the recommendation is in the best interest of the district. And that was the evaluation in this particular case.
So my question is then with the risk involved, it's what I'm wondering is, do we have litigation that we're pursuing to the end of the road? And the reason why I would ask is just because, if we don't fight anything until the end, sometimes it's easy to, I'm just concerned, if we always settle, if there's litigation that we actively are pursuing to the end.
Can I just?
So we
touch
gotta
on
talk about that
In
in
my years, I
executive
have seen
session.
cases where we have taken them to court.
Yeah.
We have gone to court
Yeah.
and we have won and moved away.
And I think for us, the due diligence piece is really the attorneys taking a really hard look at these, doing their due diligence and providing the administration with the information that says, hey, this is appraised here, but so let's negotiate from a place of strength to get the best possible settlement for the district. But I think I agree, our history, we've gone to court to challenge some of these things if it doesn't feel like it works for district. The term I heard was recently in interviewing some attorneys was floodgates. We don't want that to happen where everything comes at us all of a sudden. So yeah, we can have some further conversation because there are some things happening that we have to discuss as well. But I think generally philosophy, I think, is to make sure that we look at these carefully, scrutinize them, and make sure that they're in the best interest of the school district as well as the community we serve.
I think that great. And could I just say that I think it's really hard to swallow that the freeze for 3 years seems really unreasonable to me. That they get that, that I don't know the agreement to that, what the logic is behind that, but if you're going to look into this, if someone could look into that as well, I would appreciate that.
Well, you can go down that rabbit hole about pilots and everything. I'm really concerned about all those things too, so.
Well, I think one of the things to remember when you're dealing with the assessments is a lot of it is not controlled by the district. It's tied into the county, the state. And think of it when you get your own tax bill. My son just built a brand new house in this town. And if you saw his assessment, when he looked at assessment, he said, if they can get me this much for my house, I'll sell it tomorrow. And I think a lot of that mentality is out there when you look at your tax bill. So it's only as good as the assessments. And to go what Jeff is saying and having somewhat of a business background, businesses are looking every day to cut their costs. And we have to have, and I know through Jennifer and Jeff, it's about the assessment process and how value it is. And a lot of things that the district can't control, these municipalities are over assessing properties. And then the districts are kind of caught you got to make a look at and say, are we going to fight it? I have sued the town over my assessment and hired lawyers and took it all the way, and they did fight me and I lost. So it does happen and it is out there, but I think us being mindful of it and picking the cases, especially when businesses are doing it, you got to ask why.
Yes, agreed. From a business standpoint, it's more than likely is what you want to base it on. What does the attorney say? Is it more than likely we would win or more than likely we will lose? And based on that, you make a decision whether it's right or wrong. You have to look out for the financial idea of what's behind that. So
I
that's
wanna-
kind of how it's assessed.
I just want to say too, like with the attorney budget, like I do want to know that we can win. You know, like if we're paying for services, you know, that we are able
That's for
to win
sure.
the case.
Good point. The other part to this particular settlement and in previous settlements, we are in situations sometimes where the town has already agreed to the settlement. So if we choose to fight the litigation, we bear the full cost of the legal fees associated with that. Is that right, Jim?
Yes, we would be independent in that,
And
in that lawsuit.
There are times we have partnered with the town though, too, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right. Did we approve that or not?
I don't think you
Jeannie,
did.
Jeannie, we need a vote on that? Do you get that? We have to vote still, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You need a motion to approve the settlement. Joanne, I need a second. Michelle, those in favor? All those opposed? And John. Okay. And Emily, 3. So we had 6-3. Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Briefly, Marissa.
Thank you, Mr. Buno. Our Workplace Violence Prevention Committee has been working together since January as a result of the amended Department of Labor law that now extends to public schools. The training component was the last component within the timeline for Department of Labor. And we provided that training to our employees on Friday, April 26th during the half-day professional development. I want to send my thanks to Questar. Lisa Lyons and Tracy Catalfamo worked very hard to put a module together and then present our training component on the 26th. So we're very grateful for both of them. We offered 2 sessions. One was at 11:45 a.m. to all of our Goff and Columbia High School faculty and staff members. And then the second was for our elementary faculty and staff in our central office at 12:45 that day. The components of the training included a review of the policy that was adopted by the board in January. We reviewed what the purpose of workplace violence prevention is in public schools and the Department of Labor. And we went through the risk assessments that were completed in all of our district buildings with the assistance of Carrie Marble at Questar. And I am the designated point person for the district. So if there's any workplace violence incidents, the faculty member or staff member would reach out to me and we would conduct an investigation from there. This training needs to be completed annually. So we had to complete this training by May 3rd of 2024. We're going to be completing it again during Superintendent's Conference Day in September 2024. That will be an online module through the Questar platform. And then any employee that's hired into the district will have to complete the workplace violence training upon hire and then annually thereafter.
Any questions for Marissa? No? Okay, thank you, Marissa.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
Yes. So on April 29th, we had a health insurance review committee and Mr. Krisnoff from Amsher Associates joined us as well as our bargaining units. And we went over the health insurance rates for 24-25 because our open enrollment period had started on May 1st. So we provided information about our medical plans for CDPHP, which is an HMO community rated plan. And then also our Highmark plan, which is a retrospective rated plan. And so generally the health insurance, the medical increases are around 9 to 10%. And then we also reviewed our pharmacy rates, which were fully self-insured for those pharmacy rates. The premiums had increased 15%. However, our trend is warranting that rates probably should have increased by about 32%. And that's just based on our experience. However, there are some reserves within the CASHIT consortium that's able to support that and phase in some rate increases over the next 2 to 3 years. We also went through just the open enrollment communications that were planned to go out to staff, which had gone out on May 1st. And then we also talked about retiree billing, how that moved over to Amsher. and how that has been successful, and the retirees are appreciating the new electronic payment option. So that was about our committee meeting, and it went very well. So thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer?
I guess not questions, but pharmacy costs.
Yes.
It needs to be, looked at in terms of policies and what can be done to reduce cost. That's not coming down much in the near future.
No,
so.
it's not coming down, and there's a lot of just drugs in the marketplace that are very expensive. And then, a district could be one claim away of, a serious medical issue that I know of a district in our region that had a claim that reached up to upwards of $1 million, so because of a blood cancer or something like that. So, or hepatitis issues. So there's, a lot of variability, and it's about trying to manage that and see if there's other ways, other programs for rebates, with manufacturer rebates to help try to drive down some of those costs.
And there are also insurance programs you can purchase for excess coverage related to
Yes.
claims. So something we might want to look at for that, because you do have one or
Yes.
two and it could impact you
It could impact significantly.
versus buying an insurance policy for it.
Anyone else? Thanks, Jennifer. Roy? Anything?
None today.
Nothing. Nothing? Oh, good. Very good. Table motions, none at this time. Old business, board members, I don't have anything at this time. Moving on to consent agenda, items A through I. Information is shared out with our community and with the board members. Any questions or comments on that? Yes, Joanne.
Just a comment of congratulations to two Belltop staff after a lot of years of service. Wish them well on their retirement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll recognize them later in the year. Yes, in June.
Could you pull H for a separate vote?
Pull each separate vote. Anyone else? I do want to add, so there's an addendum for the non-instructional support personnel memo for a bus driver, right, Marissa? So let's include item 13C in the consent as it's personnel related, and we will do a separate vote on item 8. So A through G, I, and then 13C. Okay. Need a motion to approve that by consent. Jesse, anyone else? John, all those in favor? Approved. Now we have a vote on item H, the memorandum for agreement on the Goff AV director. Questions or comments? Need a motion to approve that. Cheryl, second. Jesse, all those in favor? Those abstaining? Mr. Dunn? Approved. The next item is the addendums 13A and B. I asked Mr. Simons just to put these on, not as approval, but as conversation points at this point, just so we have an understanding. I don't know if we've ever been to Japan.
I don't think we've ever taken a trip to Japan. We put our overseas trips on pause during COVID, and we've had some very successful ones recently where the kids have come back with a tremendous experience thanks to our teachers who chaperone. Costa Rica being the most recent one. So Dan Wagner is here, as is Greg Tarkos.
Hi, Greg.
They're both proposing these trips for students. They're interested in hopefully getting them approved so that they can have meetings with the parents and the students about what the expectations are and start to plan the fundraising and all of the efforts that need to be done to make the trip successful. I do meet, I have in the last year or so met with chaperones that are proposing trips to go over the board policy. I did that within the last week and a half or so with Mr. Tarkos and Mr. Wagner. I talked with them specifically about concerns that have come up in the past regarding, are there options should the State Department issue an alert travel advisory. They are going through a very reputable company that does school trips for a number of school districts across the country. There's an option that they encourage the parents to take the insurance out for the trip in the event that it's canceled. I talked to them about chaperone ratios. This is a trip with a 6-to-1 ratio. I talked to them about the policy that says no student should be denied an opportunity for a field trip due to financial resources. We talked about structuring the fundraisers to be as equitable as they could be. I talked to Jen about working with them to make sure that the money is accounted for within board policies. But this is a long trip. They're going a long ways away, and obviously the concern is the safety of the kids.
Exactly.
So
The other question I had too was what prompted the decision to go to Japan?
you want to come up?
Yeah,
You
come
want
on.
to come up to the microphone? It's just kind of.
Unless you want to use your teacher voice from the side.
If we could do that.
So I was fortunate enough to be sent to Rome, Italy, over a five-day period in January. And I met with a number of first-time group leaders from EF Tours. And one of the most successful tours at this convention was Japan. Everyone talked about Japan being such a great, they had a great time. There was European trips, there was Costa Rican trips, there were South American trips, there was Australian trips. Japan was by far the one that everyone had everything great to say about it. There was nothing bad about Japan.
We were looking at the other offerings. There is already trips that go to Europe, so we didn't want to step on toes
Sure.
of other people that do that during the school year. Costa Rica went so great, but it was also a third world nation. We had
Sure.
to get recommended shots. So when we were looking at response, I'm like, where can we go where I don't have to get typhoid shots or things like that? And then we were looking at Galapagos Islands. We're like, oh, that'd be pretty cool, but Ecuador isn't most stable these days.
That's for sure.
We were looking at Egypt. There's a boat ride down the Nile. I was like, that sounds amazing, but with what's going on in Israel, that's probably not the best move to go either. So then we're thinking, well, the timing in Japan, it's during the cherry blossoms, and Japan's very modern
Terrific.
nation, modern nation. So we said, why don't we see what the interest is for that? We know that you can't approve it tonight, but we were wondering if you could allow us to advertise, because your next meeting is May 29th, and we only have 10 class days left before the regents exams begin, and then we wouldn't really have as much time to see how much interest there is, because we can only go if there's student interest.
Correct.
Right?
And that was the other reason that Japan came up too, because as much as I think it would be cool to go to Italy, or not Italy, Egypt, or go to some other places, Japan, I think, is just one of the
Yeah,
kids
sounds
are talking
awesome.
about it
yeah.
already. About going to Japan, I think there's going to be a big interest in that.
I don't have any issues with the team going forward and surveying students and see what the level of interest is to gauge that, and then we can come back and see what that interest is, and if it's a go, it's a go.
Great.
All right.
And
You wanna-
if you want us back on the 29th, you can come back and answer
Yeah.
any other questions. If you have any questions, we can answer them now as well.
They have submitted a pretty detailed request for both respective trips. And again, it does meet all the policy requirements. I don't know that by the 28th you'll have a full commitment from the kids, right? But you'll have an idea that it's a go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And if I can just, I can be a testimony, because my daughter went to Costa Rica and it was a once in a lifetime experience. And she bonded with the kids there that she'll have a lifetime experience with, the education, the culture. And she did come home and say, I love my USA. There was a lot of bugs there. So she had a great time. So,
Spiders,
yeah, she loved
Yeah.
her spiders. You know that.
Of course.
Yeah, I
So,
think
but
the
it was
reason really I
amazing to
wanted,
have
before
them
just
back.
doing a general approval, was just to see, get a sense, the interest, what prompted it, because Japan was a new one to me
Yeah.
in my time at the board, and to make sure, I mean, it's these, I love to support these opportunities for kids and the parents to be able to take advantage of that and make sure that all our students have an opportunity to
Mr. Dunn,
explore.
I'm sorry to interrupt. If we get volunteers, you can be a chaperone.
Yeah, I'll be
You
on
know,
the
it was
board
pretty
by then.
tempting to see that.
Thank you for bringing this back to our students, because I think this is a real
Unique opportunity.
positive experience for people to have and get out there. So
And we do need to get out early on these ones because they're costly. So
Yes.
we're going to need
And the sooner
fundraising.
we get out, and the sooner we start advertising, the sooner we get the people signing up, the cheaper it is per month. payment.
Got it.
And we delayed bringing it up to you because we wanted to first see how EF was in Costa Rica. And we were blown away by
Terrific.
the amount of I did not expect that much education. Our tour guide was phenomenal. It was just, she was constantly telling us all
Great.
this information. So
And the organization, that, they kept you on time, they
They
kept you
did.
organized.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
it was really good.
Great to hear.
I just have a question. Sorry. I know one of them was for spring and one is for summer 2025. When would students have to have like a letter of intent or deposit down? September or?
They could have technically a deposit tomorrow. I have a meeting with an EF representative tomorrow. I wanted to make sure we had this discussion first. The website is up and running. I've just got to promote the website. And as soon as I do that, they could technically sign up tomorrow.
So when would they, when would be the
There's a
deadline?
deadline.
Like you
There's a
can't
deadline.
Oh,
go?
the deadline.
Yeah.
Really, I think, I think it was 6 weeks prior. 6 weeks prior to leaving. The problem is with that is you don't have any time to pay it off. You'd have to pay
Right.
it one
Usually
lump
people
sum.
put the deposit and then pay. Yeah. Okay.
Over time.
Yeah.
But if we get we can get the group rate once we can like start advertising there, people sign up. Like we're worried about it potentially increasing if we don't advertise for it now, then we start advertising in September, it's like, well, these are the new costs.
The rates changed.
That came
Yeah,
up.
since we got back from Costa Rica, the price has gone up, I think, $400. So,
I think this is great, and any opportunity to get out and see the world is an opportunity for students. I would just ask that if we decide to talk about this, it needs show how it's equitable and how we're allowing students to go if they can't afford it, what the plan is for that. I think that that's really important. And then I noticed that there was a potential option to gain 3 credits through a university. So if you could bring some details on that, if that's an additional cost, if that's included, I think that would be helpful too. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good job.
thank you.
All right, so that concludes our addendums. New business, board members, anything to bring forward?
I wanted to just say that, I really would like to find a way to partner like with our higher education institutions locally. I spoke with Professor Lyons and there's another expert, Professor Sorensen, who really specializes in education and academic research and can help with the process for data needs. And I'm just wondering if there's a way for us to find a project that could provide a proof of concept that have an analytical academic approach and statistical measurements, for programming, just with the idea of creating, insights for the board to make scientific database decisions, to know even what data do we have or don't we, what is possible, what is statistically significant. And I think even just having those conversations sometimes is helpful for informed decision making. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Are those individuals at UAlbany?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with those types of projects. Years ago, I was at a showcase of those kinds of research projects that were done in particular districts. At that time, it was focused on high needs districts.
Right. I think that it's important to understand the amount of data that's already collected by the district.
Yeah.
If that's a helpful understanding, the board and the team do data reports. Through the BOCES, there's a whole data analyst service, that partners with different educational institutions. There's a close relationship with SUNYs especially. So I think if we can explore the partnership where if it's cost beneficial and part of a service that adds on to like a value added data component to what we already gather, which is substantial on our students. So it really comes down to what kind of data do you want to collect? What's the purpose? And what do you hope to do with that once you have that information? That's really kind of those questions about setting up a plan. And I think if you want to have like a Jeff Baker, who's the Chief Information Officer at Questar, or some other person come over and talk to us about those kinds of things and what they can offer, I think it would be helpful. I think the data analysis piece is something that if we want to go down that direction to explore more, we need to have those experts in as well. Because there may be those partnerships already exist, and we just don't want to duplicate them. And then if there's a gap, we want to be able to fill that gap.
Absolutely. That's great. And I just want to say they also offered, they like I spoke to Ms. Lyons and she said that she would be able to put together a 1-page if we had something in mind, just a 1-page, what is possible, like as a summary to the board. So just to keep in mind, that would go great with an evaluation from our BOCES partners,
Okay, excellent. Mr. Stiles and I will have some further conversations about that. Very good. Thank you.
Anything else?
Jeff, the early start time, conversation, late start time, moving the start time in the high school. We might just want to circle back, and if we're closing the book, I'm fine with it, but I think people are asking, hey, whatever happened to that? And we had COVID. I mean, I know what happened to it, but.
I was thinking about that the other day, and I actually pulled out the documentation of what we had done before COVID. Yeah, because some of the students are doing them as, we're proposing it as a big project, and I was responding to the students. I'd have to take a look at it again, really in terms of the transportation operation. It's an enormous amount of time to do the kind of study that you would need to do to assure that you could do it. But, maybe next year, we can at least start picking up the conversation more formally. Just to remind everybody, the reasons we didn't go forward with it was primarily based on the 3-tiered busing system, where we use the same buses to take the high school kids, then the middle school kids, and then the elementary kids. And the only option at the time that seemed to be the most feasible would be to flip-flop and have the elementary kids going earlier. And that time that would work was too early for some of the parents. So we put a pause on it. Then we've had transportation shortages and bus drivers that make the routes really tight right now. We'd have to assess how that would impact, but.
And the athletics, wasn't that
And
an issue too?
yeah, athletics, I think the athletics piece could have worked out eventually, but maybe for next year, we'll just maybe pick it up as a discussion item and see whether or not maybe do some assessment of the transportation. The other thing is that some districts have been able to do that, but every elementary school has a different start time. And that causes, for example, that causes problems for staff that may be split between 2 buildings.
Yikes.
In order to make the bus runs like every single, I think Gilderland was the case, and I think they or Bethlehem may have switched back because it didn't work real well. So, but we can certainly take a look at it again.
It's definitely, something.
Yes.
people are
I
saying.
remember
don't
sitting in
know if
this
it ever
room, it
ended.
was packed,
Right.
and it was pretty
Yeah.
emotional. And from all different, we don't want to pit our communities against each other, elementary and secondary.
Right.
So it's a big issue.
The square
It is-
mileage of our district makes it tough.
It's big. It was,
From what I remember too at that time, and I've been hearing like inklings of it again too, Michelle, but from what I also remember is that if we did move up the elementary time, the community didn't have the bandwidth to do extra aftercare either. I think, hadn't we
There's a lot of issues
discussed with
with daycare.
GCC that they're,
Right.
to accommodate that many more students that would get out that much
That's
earlier?
correct.
That was a huge.
they can't even do our
cons-
pre-K now, so.
Exactly, so it's
Right.
already a problem, so I know that was a huge concern for parents,
So, yeah.
or
Yes.
relying on the older sister or brother to get the kid off the bus,
Right.
and
All
yeah,
of that,
so there
yeah.
were all kinds of issues.
So we'll
Yeah,
pull
I
out
think
that
we all
information.
recognize that, when the historical context of when the school day starts versus, you have a 2-member household, historically, right? It was traditionally 1 member of the household stayed home. So, and now we live in a different world now, and a lot of these burdens, fall primarily on, certain individuals in the household, often called like kin care folks, and those are people who are in charge of, ensuring that the household runs, and most of the time, right, it's on the women and the mothers. And I think that, any discussion where we can go down that road to alleviate any sort of that to help families is worthwhile. So I was not here when we talked about that in that study, and I'd be really interested to look into that. And if we're hearing that there's an appetite for that from families, I think we owe it, to them to look at that and at least hear what the families in the community want.
Very good.
Very good.
Mike, real
Yes,
quick.
Mark.
And I support our trips and everything like that, but I heard a word fundraising, and I just want to make sure that while our board does have a policy on fundraising, it is almost 20 years old. Really, I pulled it up, it really doesn't say
Right.
anything. So I would request that maybe we reach out to NISBA Policy Committee, see if there's an updated one. And if not, maybe throw this back to the Policy Committee to look at.
I actually did that the other day. I reached out to NISBA. There was another issue that came up regarding fundraising in the community. I reached out to NISBA. I do have their sample policies, and I talked to Charles Simmons at the Farrar firm, and he said, email me the information. I'll take a look at revising your policy. I think with fundraising, I think it gives the kids an equitable opportunity to participate in these kinds of things, but there's also ways to do it that I think are more conducive to education. And I think we also, in some cases, need to specify what we're raising money for. And I think the accounting of the fundraising money, depending on what it is, may be occurring in the booster club or in a group, and then there's other district. But I think that whole issue, and then the community only has a certain appetite for fundraising, and it does get overwhelming at times. So the ways we go about it, how we do it, putting some parameters and guidelines on it, based on an issue that I heard about recently, not this trip, I started looking into it a little bit more.
Yeah, so maybe we can get that to the Policy
Yes.
Committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Charles hasn't given me anything. The school board's one didn't fit what we're talking about. It was not really a fundraising policy.
Does that go in conjunction with the extra classroom activity kind of things?
It's not bound by extra classroom activity,
There's two.
but the
really-
accounting principles are the same.
Same, okay.
Yes.
So we'll look
Having
into,
having a projection of what you're going to raise, accounting for the money,
Right,
et cetera.
right. Yeah, there's some crossovers there,
Yeah.
but it's, the extra classroom is separate,
Separate,
but just the concept of fundraising in general.
Good.
For example,
To have
the
clear policies on that.
golf kids went to Washington this morning, left for Washington this morning, and there's been some very successful efforts to provide financial assistance to those kids that go to Washington in the last year and this year. Those are some things that I think are best practices that we might be able to replicate and require in our policy.
that's good. That's good. Good idea. Thanks, Mark. All right, that concludes our new business items. So we have a list of, I had 3 here. Public forum, anyone? Nope, okay. Board forum, so am I right with Emily? Good. Joanne, Jess, Jennifer, Mark, John's good. John.
I do want to recognize Mrs. Nolet as well, who's retiring. And she's been a friendly face at Green Meadow for our whole time there, so.
Yeah, my kids too.
congratulations.
Yeah, 30. So, okay. I don't have anything else as well, so we do have a need to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation. Need a motion to go into executive session. Jesse, Emily, second. All those in favor? Approve. Have a great night, everyone.